Hello guys, welcome back to KDCO. This is the first video of the Angular course we are going to start. And this video is all about Introduction to TypeScript, which is the programming language we are going to use throughout this entire course. TypeScript is just a programming language that is extending the JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, learning TypeScript is rather straightforward and you should be able to learn the key TypeScript features by simply going through the course step by step. In this module, I will introduce you to what exactly TypeScript is and why we might want to use it, what its benefits are, and we are going to explore some of its key features and types, which we use all the time. Now that being said, we will not cover every single TypeScript feature which you see in this course, since you will learn it step by step when we go through the course as mentioned. So what is TypeScript and why would we use it? TypeScript is so-called superset to JavaScript. It's a programming language which builds upon JavaScript, which extends JavaScript you can say. The core programming language is still JavaScript, so the base JavaScript syntax like writing JavaScript code and if conditions, for loops, objects and all this does not change, but TypeScript adds some more features to the JavaScript syntax. And most importantly, it adds static typing to JavaScript, and that's also where the name comes from, TypeScript. JavaScript on its own is actually dynamically typed. And what does this mean and why it is useful? For this, I prepared a very simple example here. This is a standard JavaScript file and this is a standard HTML file which has no actual content in the body but which imports this script file here. Now if I open this HTML file in the browser, let me copy the path here, go to browser, paste it over here, enter. If you go to the inspect, that is the developer tools, and go to console, I see 7 here in the console, in the developer tools. I see 7 here because if I go to the file again, the JavaScript file, I have defined a function add which is taking two parameters, that is a and b, and then return the result by adding a and b. And in fifth line, I'm just calling this add function with two parameters 2 and 5 and storing the result in constant variable result. And in seventh line, I'm just logging this output. So that's just standard JavaScript, nothing fancy here. Now JavaScript has types. JavaScript knows the concept of types. For example, here the two values which I'm using that are passing here, the 2 and 5 here, are type of numbers. That's something JavaScript knows without TypeScript, right? The important thing is just JavaScript, as I mentioned, is dynamically typed, which means that this function here doesn't expect any particular types. It just knows it will receive two parameters, that is a and b, and it just add them and return them, right? The types for this function are not announced ahead of time. So there are no types mentioned in this function anywhere. Instead, it takes whatever the parameters it gets and tries to execute this code a plus b and return the output. Then it will store it in the result and log the output to the console. And that's how we got 7 there. And that's how this code works with numbers, right? But this code also happens to work with strings also. Instead of this 2 and 5, if I change them to strings like this, 2 string and 5 to string, and if I send these strings as parameters to the function add here, what do you think the output is? Let us see. Let us save it. Go to the console again, refresh it. You see 25 here. Because the plus operator here does not add this 2 and 5 in the mathematical way. It just concatenates them as they both are strings, right? So if it receives two numbers, it will add up and use the result as number, and if it gets two strings, it will add up like it concatenates them and return the output. As I've seen here, 2 plus 5 is 7 and concatenating 2 and 5 strings are 25 with a string output, right? So this shows why JavaScript is okay and great, but why it might not always be the best. Because if you properly think here, if you use this add function with numbers, it is returning number, and if you use it for strings, it is returning the strings by concatenating them. But this is the error if you use JavaScript in your projects, because this add function is supposed to take the input as numbers and return the numbers by adding them. Instead, it also takes the strings and concatenate them and return. So to prevent the errors like this, we use TypeScript. Now you can tell me, instead of calling this function with the strings, I will just use it with numbers and there is no problem, right? But this is a small project, right, with only 2 files. But what in case if you have a bigger project and lot of files with lot of people working on it? The people may unintentionally call wrong functions and get wrong outputs like this, and JavaScript is not even giving the warning to those outputs. So it will be difficult to scan those errors and rectify them, right? So here the TypeScript comes into the picture. Let me show you. Let me copy this function, create another file, TypeScript function.ts, because we save all the TypeScript files with .ts extension. Save it and paste the function. Let me change this function name here. Now I can use add here. So if you see here, what I can do is I can add type annotations here by simply giving colon and the type of this a parameter, that is number, and I will give same for b also, colon number. So what this function telling me that I will be getting two parameters, that is a and b, which is having only the type of number. So I will be considering only the inputs of type number, and I do not consider any other inputs like string or boolean, anything. So it will take only inputs as numbers and then it will add it, simply return it. And if you see here, it is showing me an error if I hover on it it is showing that augment of type string is not assignable to parameter of type number. That means as I'm sending the string to the parameter type of number, so it is showing me that error. So in JavaScript, you didn't get that error, but if it is in TypeScript, you're getting this error. So our developers will find out the error before you are executing this function or file, and that of course allows us to write better code in the end. Because we can avoid such errors, we don't have to track all of them at the runtime. Before runtime itself, we can track them in the coding part only. And that's why using TypeScript could be worth a thought. That's it for the introduction to TypeScript in this Angular course. See you in the next lecture. Until then, subscribe and stay tuned.